Hey everyone. Sheesh. Hey everyone. It's Jeffy here, coming at you with a new tutorial on Blender. This tutorial is based on a tutorial done by Cesar Salcido. It was a year ago. And it's making this eyeball. The reason I'm redoing this tutorial, or I'm doing this tutorial, is because while this guy is brilliant, his tutorial is super fast. He does this in 6 minutes, and there's a lot of pausing that you have to do on the video to find out and figure out what he's done. He doesn't explain the materials at all. And I get it, like he's just showing kind of how badass he is. So what we're going to do, apparently I'm watching the Graham Norton show up here. What we're going to do is do this tutorial, but I'm going to slow it down for you and show you everything. Let's go. I'll show you kind of what you're going to end up with here. It's going to be this eyeball. So yeah, if we put the light down here at the beginning, you can kind of see it a little bit better. But that's what we're going to end up with. So stick with me, and yeah, here we go. So the modeling part of this is actually really easy. It doesn't take a lot of work. It's the materials, and actually the materials are not that complex either, especially after watching some of Andrew Price's stuff lately. The materials are not that bad. So first thing we're going to do, and I'll make all these files available to you guys to review or to use. Actually, let me get my screen display going. Hopefully you guys can see that. So let's start some background images, just one actually. We're going to make this the right view. We're going to open this up in eyeball, the background.png. Sorry, that mic might be a little bit close. And if we go to our right view, we can see an eyeball. So I'm going to create a UV sphere. I'm going to make sure this is 12 segments, and then I'm going to go ahead on the rotation and just rotate it 90 degrees on the X right here, so you can see that. Excuse me. At this point, we're going to scale this up. I'm going to go into wireframe mode. We're going to scale this up to kind of match this eyeball frame a bit. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to type O, hit O on the keyboard to open up proportional editing. Control tab to make sure I'm in vertex select mode, and hit A to let go of everything. And I'm going to hit that vertex right there on the end. And I'm going to grab it, and we'll make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to make sure I'm on the y-axis. And that should be about perfect. At this point, I'm also going to hit Control 2 on the keyboard. What this will do is actually put a subsurf modifier on. It's the shortcut. So subsurf with a view of 2. And now you can kind of see we've got this shape here of an eye. Let's go out of edit mode, hit smooth shading. And there we go. So we'll go back into edit mode. What I'm going to do here is, while I've got this vertex selected, I'm going to hit Control and the plus sign until I get up to that area. I'm going to press Shift D, and then my mouse button to select that. I've created a new or a duplicate of these vertices, and I'm going to hit P. And that's going to make it its own selection. So if we tab out of this mode, we'll see we now have the sphere and then this cap. So while we're here, let's name this. This is going to be called Iris, and this will be called Eyeball. Excellent. So let's work on the iris. The way to do that, we're going to do this now, is I am going to actually, let's scale. I'm going to shift click on both these so that they're together. I'm going to scale this up just a little bit more. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to select the iris, and then I'm going to hit Shift H, and that will hide everything that is unselected. And we're going to go ahead and make this little area here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot this back to about right there, go into edit mode, select this, and we've got proportional editing still turned on, so I'm going to grab this on the y-axis and get us a little bit back to about right there. My computer is not happy with me right now. I have a lot of stuff running in the background. I'm going into wireframe, and I'm going to turn off proportional editing by pressing the O key. You can also do it up here. And then I'm going to move this back so that it's right in line with those vertices. Then I'm going to create an edge loop right here and scale this down. So I'm going to hit S and then Shift Y. I don't want to scale on the Y axis. I'm going to bring this down to about right there. These are good. And one more thing I want to do, I should have done this before, but I'm going to go so you can see it. I'm going to go hit Control Tab, go into Edge Select, and just on this back area here, I am going to select every other line. This is going to flatten this out a little bit better for us. So I'm press X and then dissolve edges. Got it? Good. Okay. Man, my computer hates me. Let's go. What's going on here? Let's get that out of that. Maybe that's helping. Anyway, okay. Now, let's see here. I'm going to create an edge loop right here. And to do that, I hit Control R and just hover near these. If I go like that, it's going to create it there, but I want it right there. And we'll move it about right there. Now, I'm going to hit, while that's selected, I'm going to press Control and then click on this line here, Shift click. So I want to Shift click on that, Shift Alt click to grab both of those. And I'm going to move them out just a little bit. And just this one by itself out just a little bit. This one in just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab this outer edge loop and I'm going to hit E and then Y and extrude it out just a little bit. And that is our iris, and that looks pretty darn good. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to set origin to geometry. Not that it's necessary, but I like it there. Okay, pressing Alt H, and we are now back in business. We can see that we've got both things there. The iris in there, looking good. If this, if you have a light in your scene, you can actually get rid of that right now, because what we're going to do next is create the light. So I'm going to go to top view. I'm actually going to get out of that by pressing N. I'm going to go to top view here. I'm going to make sure the 3D cursor is in the center, and I am going to create a new mesh. It's going to be a curve. Now I'm going to do a curved circle. Don't get that confused with a mesh circle, because what we're going to do with it requires a curve. So we're going to do that circle, and I'm going to scale it up. That seems good. And Shift A, create a mesh. I'm going to create a plane. I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees, and then I'm going to bring it up right here. So it's right close to this sphere. It doesn't have to be on it, but it's going to be right close. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a modifier to that. It's an array modifier on the x-axis. For the relative offset, I'm going to do a 1.2. Making it easy for you. And then we're going to add one more array modifier. And on the x-axis, we're going to set that to 0. And on the y-axis, we're going to set that to 1.2. I think you can see where this is going. This is going to be the lighting. And while we're on the lights, we'll go to the materials. We're going to create a new material. We're going to call this panel light. I don't know why I got all sultry about the panel light, but I did. We'll make this an emission. We're going to set that to 30. Boom. You with me so far? Now, the reason we created this circle is because we're going to parent this. So while this is still selected, I'm going to shift and click on the circle, then hit Control P and click on Follow Path. Now, if I open up a timeline, oops, you can see that, boom, we follow a path. Yay. Now, this path is set to go for 100 frames, and then it just stops. So we can either keep it at 100 frames, or if I click on the circle and I go to the object properties, one thing that we can find here is under frames, it ends at 100 frames. So we can increase that, or we can even just decrease the timeline to 100 frames. And there we go. You don't really need much more than that. All right, next step, we start adding the materials. This is where it gets interesting, so stay tuned. All right, and jumping into, we are going to jump right into our UV editor. So I'm going to go through the screen and go to UV editing. Now, I am going to make some changes. So the UV editor usually doesn't have the node editor up here, but I've got that. I am going to drop this down a little bit here. Get rid of that, get rid of this. This is going to become my rendered view. This is going to be my wireframe, and I'm also going to pull out the properties panel here. Where are you? Properties, there you are. So that I can control that. All right. So, first thing we need to do is put an image on here. So, I'm going to open an image in the eyeball, and that image is going to be this Scalera color PNG. There it is. And we're going to go into edit mode on this, and I'm going to edge select this center loop, and I am going to hit Control E. There's a message for me. Control E and mark seam. Then I'm going to select everything, hit U, and unwrap. Now, at this point, I'm going to click on the UV selection, grab the top selection and move it over, and get it just about centered. Excuse me. Get it just about centered, and then I'm going to scale on the y-axis. So it's about to touch edges, grab it on the y-axis, move it down a little bit, and scale it up more on the y-axis. Basically, I am trying to get it to line up correctly here with this image, which is really nicely already moved out for me. Anyway, and we're going to scale the next image up on the y-axis, grab it up on the y here. And again, scale on the y, get it so that it's basically centered. And there we go. So let's put this into rendered view. Now, we don't see anything on here. That's because we actually haven't added the image to the material. So earlier I put just a diffuse material on here when I was going through all my why isn't the light working kind of thing. So to do this, we're just going to add an image texture, kick that into the color, and we are going to go through the drop down and click Scalera color, and there it is. Now we can see that these aren't lined up right, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, while I've got this selected, I'm going to hit R to rotate, and I am just going to rotate this till it looks about right. And I'm actually going to scale this down just a smidgen. And I'm going to scale this one down just a smidgen as well. Rotate this some more. And that'll probably do for what we need. Fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and save. And then I'm going to go into actually let's do a quick little timeline here just so you can kind of see. The light moving around. Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's go to a node editing window. Now, this is a window I've created off the UVideo editor. It's a big node window. I've got my 3D view down here for the rendered and timeline if I need it. So I'm going to click this to rendered. And let's get started. First off, I'm going to move the timeline back to 0 so the light's directly in front. And we are going to make sure to use nodes. And we're going to go over here to make sure that we are on this image texture. I'm going to widen this out a little bit. I'm going to put the material way over here so we can keep this separate. And you're going to see that this is really not going to be that complicated. We're going to be using a bunch of mix shaders. But here we go. So I'm just going to duplicate this image texture. Not what I wanted to do there. That into color off a vector, and I'm going to make sure this is non-color data, and then I'm going to duplicate it, put it down here, and duplicate it again and put it right there. And then I'm going to box select everything, hit scale X0 just to make sure everything's lined up, and we're going to move it over here. So I'm just preparing and making room. So the first non-color data that we're going to put up here is going to be a translucent mask. So we're going to open an image, and we're going to do the translucent mask eye. We're going to open that up. And actually, let me rearrange these here. The second non-color data is going to be the sclera mask. And the final non-color data is going to be our bump mask, or our bump map. So that is everything. And you can see kind of what each of these are going to do. So here is our translucent mask. This is going to be our sclera mask. Apparently something's going on outside. And this is going to be our bump, and you can see it kind of in there, the bump map, what it's going to look like. All right. So let's get this color back on the diffuse and move this over. And let's work on the translucent mask first. So I'm going to add in a mix shader. Where are you? There you go. And in this mix shader, I am going to grab this translucent data and go right into the factor of it. And from this diffuse, we're going to go into the bottom of the shader. Let's put this in here like that. And you can see over here what it's doing. So that's the diffuse of this shader. And we are going to add now another mix shader. We're going to put it right here. And I'm actually going to lead that into there. Now, let me clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to grab me some lines. That way we can kind of put these closer together. Ba-ba-ba. Oops, sheesh, move, come on, work with me. All right, this other mix shader, we're going to take the color data from here, And we are going to put it into the factor of here. Let's draw a little line there. Excuse me. And then we're going to create some translucent shaders to mix in with this. So I'm going to create a translucent shader here and just duplicate it. This is going to go in the top, and this is going to go in the bottom. And what we're going to do here is we're going to change this color to an orangey color. And you can see back down here in the corner what's actually going on here. What these things are doing. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do is I am going to take this color data and put it into, oh, actually, let's not do that yet. We're going to create one more mix shader here. Sorry, everybody, if this is being confusing. I'm just going over this. So let's do this. Shader, mix shader. We're going to put it right in front of here so that it is in between these two. And we're going to put this in the bottom shader. And then we have this glossy. We're going to create a glossy shader. So shader glossy. I'm going to put that right up here. We're going to take this gloss and put it into the top of this shader. And let's give us a little point here. I know. You're seeing it. You're seeing it come to life. What's going on down here? Excuse me. Okay. So, those are that. And we're going to raise the factor of this up to 0.9. And the roughness of this to 0.007. All right. Let's get these lined up. Scale X0. There we go. Now, what else? We have one more mix shader to add in here. Shader mix. I'm going to put that right in here. And this shader, we're going to move this to the bottom. We're going to take this color data and move that into the factor. And let me create a line here. And a line here to get this up out of the way. And then we're going to create a glass shader. Glass. We're going to put that, let me put it right here. And we're going to move the glass into the top shader here. We're going to move this up now. In fact, let me grab all these, move them down. The glossy here, or I'm sorry, glass, we're going to make sure the roughness is 0, and we're going to do the IOR to 1.376. 1.376. And that is that. So I know, a big jumbled mess right here. So we're going to move these out a bit. Hit Control J, gonna put a frame around them, and we're going to name that frame images. And we're going to do the same here. We're going to box select all these. Control J, we're going to name this shaders. Yeah, shaders. Why not? And then we're going to box these. Control J and call them mixers. Let's change the colors here just for giggles. Color blue. What color should images be? Reddish pink? Sure. All right. So now that's funny. That's that control point got put in with the shaders. That's okay. That is that. Now the only thing left to do is add a math node. Now I know what you're thinking. On a bump node, don't we always put a bump map? Well, in this tutorial, the gentleman actually put a math node in, and it actually works really well. So we're going to connect this to the top value, change this to multiply, and put this into displacement. And we're going to create that there. And now we have this. Now you'll notice we're getting a lot of lights going on here and a lot of fireflies. So one of the things I found that helps get rid of those, if we go to light paths and remove refractive caustics, that gets rid of a lot of them. So that is basically our eye. So let's go ahead and save this. That is our eyeball. And let's go to our default view. And there we go. Let's turn the subsurf back on so you can see it. And that's our eyeball. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now we just need to put an iris in there. So we'll go to the iris next. Let me get out of this mode. We're going to select the iris. I'm going to hit Shift H to hide everything. And let's move into creating the iris material. How fun is that? Back into UV editing. I'm going to hit Control 1. The reason I'm hitting Control 1 is because the way we did this, if I hit 1 on the keypad, it'll show me the back of this thing. So we do Control 1, and then we will be able to see what we got to see. Okay. There we go. That's so weird to me that it does that. Okay. Hello. I don't know why, for some reason, it likes to hide those anyway. All right, Control 1. Let's select a new image here. We actually need to add the image, and this is going to be iris color. There it is. And I'm just going to select everything here from the front view. Select U, unwrap, and then I'm going to scale it down just a bit. There we go. And we're going to create a new material. We're going to call this iris. Create a image texture. Put that into there. And from the drop down, iris color. And there we go. Now, we are not done with this. So let's go into our node editor. Let's save this. Excuse me. And we are going to set this up. Now this is not as complicated, but I am going to add another image texture here. And we're going to make this non-color data. And let's get started here. So we have our diffuse, and we're going to add this image here, the iris bump there, and we're going to add in another math node. Math. I'm going to add that to the top value, set this to multiply again, and to the displacement. Now, one thing we're going to do is we're going to add a hue saturation right here. What this is going to do is let us change the color of the eye. Super nice. So let's make this a bluish eye. Why not? Okay, we'll save again, and you know what? Let's wrap these. Call this images, and yeah, we're good. We're good. Don't need to really do anything else. Let's go back to our default view, and I am going to turn that back on and hit Alt-H. Oh, whoops, sorry, I have to get out of edit mode. Alt-H, and everything is back to where it needs to be. Shift-Z, and there we have our wonderful, wonderful iris. It's not that bright, is it? Let's do this as a negative 0.3 on the bump so it's not as veiny. Okay. All right, that's a lot better. I'm happy with that. There it is. There is our eyeball. What do you think about that, kids? Yeah? Let's do here. Let's see. Let's make a camera. Oh, we already have a camera, so let's hit Control-Alt-0. Control-Alt-0. And I am going to do something that's fun. I am going to lock camera to view, which means that any of my 3D rotation that I'm used to doing will actually move the camera instead. So then we can put the camera exactly where we want it. All right, now I can unlock the camera view. Let's go to our world. Let's turn the background a little bit down. Let's click on our light path. Let's see. Let's click on this. Go to the material. It's interesting. That's interesting. What am I missing here? I wonder if I'm going to try something, you know. I'm going to click on light path and see what happens if I add another emission shader to it. Nothing. All right then. Okay. All right. So this is it. You know what I did in mine is I'm going to duplicate this, bring it down right around here, rotate it on the Z. And now when I go in here, now we have two lights that will go around. Yeah. And this panel light, I'm going to actually create a new one and make this about a 15. 10. So it's not as bright. Yeah. Yeah. That works for me. Okay. One more thing to do is I'm going to add a plane. And I'm going to grab it on the Z axis, scale it up. Let's get out of this mode. Scale it up. And I'm going to add the panel light 1 to it. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit too much. Let's add another one. Make this a 5. Make that a 1, actually. Grab this on the Z a little bit higher. That's just going to give us some light up top. All right. So there we have the eyeball in all its glory. Next thing to do, and the last thing to do, is we're going to make this iris using shape keys, move around. So stay tuned for that. Get out of this really quick. All right. Okay, so there's something we need to do before we get into making the iris open and close. And that's just going to make things a little bit nicer and brighter. So you see right here, we're having a little bit of trouble with our transparency. So one thing we can do is we can click on the eyeball, We can go to our object properties under cycle settings, and we're going to remove the transmission, volume scatter, and shadow. And wow, that makes a big difference. And then we can go to the iris and just remove the shadow off the iris. So this is great, but it leaves us with a problem. If we put the light behind, we see that this glow comes out of the eye, and we don't want to do that. So what we can do is click on the eye, click on Shift D to duplicate, press our mouse button to keep it where it's at, and we are going to go create a quick material for this eyeball, or the secondary eyeball. So let me do a quick panel here of the outliner, just so we can make sure. And let's actually rename this eye shadow. So what we'll do is we will remove that material, and we're going to create a new material. We're going to call it shadow. And let's get right to it. We can get rid of this diffuse. I'm going to add an image texture, and it is going to be the sclera mask. Bah! And we're going to move that into a mix shader here. We're going to move that into the factor, and then we're going to create a transparent shader and move that into the top shader here, into there. Let's do the rendered. And that, let's go back into our default view. And let's scale this down just a smidge. And let's go to our eye shader, turn on the shadow. And that does that. Excellento. Excellento. All right. All right. Let's scale that down just a little bit more. Not sure how it decided to get bigger, but awesome. Now on to making the iris do irisy things. And now let's make the iris do its thing. So I'm going to click on the iris up here and Shift H to hide everything. We're going to bring the iris up, and we're going to go to the shape keys modifier. We're going to add the basis and key 1, and we're going to call this we'll just do lighten. Whatever. All right, let me tab into edit mode. Let's go to vertex. And I'm going to grab this right here and stick on my proportional editing. I'm going to hit scale, bring this down just a little bit, and we're going to scale this up just a bit here. Kind of like that. Turn off proportional editing. Let's go ahead and grab this, move it back a little bit. Move this back a little bit as well. That one back just a bit. Scale this up a bit like that. And I think that is actually going to be perfect. So now when I tab out of that, what you can see is if we move this value, we get our slider. So let's do a minimum of -0.5. I think worked really well. So it doesn't get too small, but it does get small, and then a max value is 1. So we'll set this at 0, and that is the shape key. Now, one thing we can do is I'll hit Alt-H, and we'll get this into set this back at 1, and at this point our iris is probably going to be pretty closed. So I'll right click on here and click insert keyframe, and then as we move with the light basically all the way behind, we can set this value so that it's all the way up. Right click, insert keyframe, and then as the light comes back around, we can bring this back down to 0, insert keyframe, and at the last one we'll bring this back down to here, insert keyframe, and there we go. So now as we rotate around, the eye gets bigger. It's not that practical, it's not going to work that quickly, but and you can see the as it gets away, we're widening up the iris. We'll go ahead and save that. And yeah, I think we're good. I don't know if I missed anything, but I think we're all set. The only thing left to do is go ahead and render out the animation. I found 500 is pretty good with this eyeball. Our preview's set at 32 right now. If we go up to 50, it gets a little bit cleaner in the eye. But so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the eyeball. We'll render it out here. Super giant. Super giant. It's going to take a while to render. You know, everybody always just shows the render like after it's completed, but I don't mind showing the time it takes my computer to render this out, because it's a minute, and you know, it lets you know, oh yeah, renders do take a little bit of time. So there we have our eyeball rendered out. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. It was a long one, but we got some good stuff in there. Anyway, thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, night, whatever. And we will see you soon.